Well, hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, part 4, Building Effective Campaigns to Position Your Brand and Boost Enrollments. Today our webinar is hosted and sponsored by Full Capacity Marketing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the CEO, Celina Shands.
You're muted, Celina.
Thank you so much, James, and thank you everybody for joining us. This has been such a great series, and I'm glad to see so many people back, so many familiar faces. This is the 4th webinar in our 4-part series. So I'm really excited about this because we're going to do a slight review of everything we've done. These webinars have built on one another. And today we're talking about building effective campaigns to position your adult education brand and, most importantly, boost enrollments. So many of you have reached out to me over the last couple of months from these webinars, and you've just asked outstanding questions. So I want you to continue to do that with the chat and the Q&A as well. We'll stop periodically along the way if you have burning questions, and we'll pick them up and address them right away. And I've also left places for you to officially ask them if you'd like. So excited to be joined by Deb Strafella, our VP of Marcom, and Emma Kessner today. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves because this is, I don't think you've met them yet. So go ahead, Deb.
Hi, I'm Deb Strafella. I'm the VP of Marketing and Communications. I'm a consumer and B2B marketing leader who understands the power of storytelling to drive audience action. I help organizations shape their unique voice, communicate their positioning, and create tools for storytelling. With 25 years of experience, I've collaborated with brands like Sony Music, MTV, Nickelodeon, and the NCAA. And I've spent the past 6 years at FCM focusing on education and workforce development. It's nice to be here. Turn it over to Emma.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Kessner. I'm the Director of Marketing and Work-Based Learning here at FCM. As someone who's very passionate about creating community-focused and also data-driven marketing strategies for all our work at FCM, I'm really excited about this particular webinar because it leans into the importance of tailoring your campaign messaging to your local audience. The case studies that we're going to be talking about today do a great job of showing how using the right data is one of the most powerful tools to help build effective campaigns to garner market share and relevance among your target audiences. So I'm looking forward to having a great discussion today.
Fantastic. Thanks, Emma and Deb. And they will be in the chat room looking at the Q&A. So make sure you are communicating with us throughout the webinar. Also, Emma's going to put a link in the chat box here where you can download this deck. So if you want to get a jump, download it. It will be a form. You just put in your name, your email, and it'll say submit, and then you just download the PowerPoint. Okay, so let's dive in. Today's topic, again, part 4. I want to take a little bit of time, though, to go through webinars 1 through 3 and just show you how we've gotten to this point to date. So the first webinar was on positioning your adult brand. And by the way, all of these are loaded. These webinars are recorded and on COABE's website. So you can always download them and get caught up if this is your first one. So in the first webinar, we talked about positioning your adult education brand, and we learned the difference between a good message, an effective message versus an ineffective message at all of what we call your touch points, the places where you communicate with your customers, like your website and social media, in ads. So we really had you go back and do some homework assignments. Hopefully you did that, and do an audit and to say, do I have effective messages at all of my touch points? We then blended in the science of storytelling and why you should collect testimonials and stories from an emotional standpoint. We talked about that a lot in webinar 1, that branding is really creating an emotional connection with your students. Not just talking about the features of, oh, here's this ESL class, it starts on this day and time. In order to recruit new and expand your reach to students, you've got to really get into storytelling. And so that blends into creating an effective message. And then once you have your messages, you're going to deploy them in a couple of ways. So the webinar 3 was about earned media, working with the news media to pick up coverage and building relationships. Anika Jackson shared with you best practices in PR, and we gave you a whole list of like email taglines and things for your consideration. So that was a really great webinar. Highly recommend you go back and look at that. So you can see how they built on one another. In this one, we're going to start leaning into campaigns now that you have your messaging and your story. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Move Ahead with Adult Ed campaign, which is a coordinated campaign that brings awareness about your brand and service offerings and boosts enrollments. We're going to explore the different types of campaigns, how you can align with COABE's national campaign, Move Ahead with Adult Ed, and we're going to learn 3 key strategies to leverage the campaign and replicate localized approaches. So things like getting referrals from the locator map on the campaign website, tailoring the Move Ahead with Adult Ed toolkit, and lastly, considering paid ads in your local area. So I'm going to have James pull up this first poll here, and I want you to kind of respond on the Move Ahead with Adult Ed, selecting one. I have heard about the Move Ahead with Adult campaign, and I'm participating. I've heard about it, but I'm not participating, and I have not heard about it. And the reason I'm curious about this, because we started this, I think the campaign's been going on like 33 months now. So it's been quite a while. And we've been trying to get the message out in so many ways to you all, because this is just a gold mine in terms of toolkits and ways that you can really build it in your local area. Okay, we've got about 66% participated. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and let's share the results out. So, okay, we've got about 26% of you who have heard about it and participating, 23% who've heard about it but haven't done anything with it, and then a whopping 51% who have not heard about it. Okay, there's something for everybody in here. Thanks, James, for pulling that up. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about this. Way back in COVID, and we're still going on, I know, Sharon Bonney, our CEO of COABE, and I started talking about, wow, the landscape has really changed in terms of recruiting students, and adult education enrollments are going down at a drastic rate. We need to do something. So that's where Move Ahead with Adult Ed was born, because it's a national campaign to raise awareness nationally about adult education's value and to help schools help students find schools easily, and to offer also effective options for local campaigns. So that's how it was born. It's like, we've got to do something. People don't know about adult ed. We're tired of being the best kept secret. We've really got to get the word out. So and Emma, you can put this in the chat too. You can go to the Move Ahead with Adult Ed website, and what you'll see on there, it's a very simple landing page that I'm going to talk through, because it really ties into what we've talked about in the last 3 webinars, which is storytelling. So you've got a campaign theme here, Move Ahead with Adult Ed, which is action oriented. You have value propositions on what adult education can do for you. And then in the lower part here, you've got finish what you started in school, get job training, learn computer skills, and learn English. So we wanted to present to the nation the variety of things that you all do. A lot of folks think about adult ed as, okay, it's just adult basic education, but you do so much more than that. It has such high value. So you can see also moving down, we have success stories about, adult learners. And all of these really lead into all of these. Yes, I want to finish school. Yes, I want job training. These are called calls to action, and find a school near you. Very clear. They all lead to one place, which is this locator map. Now, what I want you to do right now during the webinar is go to the locator map, and I want you to input your zip code into the map and see if your organization comes up. If it doesn't, you need to complete the form. And so Emma's going to drop in a form right here. You can see it here, but she'll drop it in the chat where you can complete it to get your organization on the locator map. There's no cost to do this, and it's a source of free referrals. I'll show you how we drive traffic to the site in just a moment. If the other scenario is you're already on the map, but you need to change your information, that's a different process. You just send an email to info@coabe.org and say, hey, I'm on the locator map, but this information needs to be changed. Maybe you have a new phone number or, something that just needs to be tweaked out. You don't need to complete that whole form over again. So what happens when COABE gets that form is they verify that you're an adult education provider, and then they submit your information on the locator map. Or we'll change it up for you. The other call to action is for the student to just fill out a contact form and submit it, at which point this goes to COABE as well, and then they help the student find you. So it's a really fantastic tool to just get your awareness built nationally. Your brand is going to be on this map, and you want to be a proud partner of this campaign. And we do that through the toolkit. So this campaign here, #MoveAheadWithAdultEd, has really, really elevated adult education throughout the nation and helping them understand who we are and what we do. How do we get students to the map? Let's see, Deb just flagged me down and said, someone said there's a $10 fee. No, there's no fee to join the map, join the locator map, 0 costs. So I'm not sure if you want to maybe see where that came up on the website, but for sure there's no cost to that. Okay, so how do we drive traffic to the website? Well, Sharon Bonney over at COABE was able to secure a Google ad grant. And if you're a nonprofit, this is maybe something that you want to look into, because this is paid advertising that you get at $10,000 a month. Can you imagine if you had $10,000 a month for your local organization to get the ads out in your local market? That would be a huge game changer. The trick on this, though, is that your click-through rates, which is a term, if you put the ad out there and then there's a link on it, someone engages with the ad, and that click-through rate has to be at least 3%. Now you say, that doesn't sound very much, but that's the benchmark, and it's difficult to do. How we get there, and here's some of the best performing ads that we have put up there: improving English, learn English better. You can also feel free to take this ad copy and use it locally and try it out if you want to do that. So it's a tricky process, but what it allows us to do, and we manage this campaign for COABE to make sure their click-through rates are where they need to be, but it allows us to micro-target to potential adult learners. Now, that's a term I really want you all to think about, because when you normally do campaigns out in your area, you kind of throw spaghetti at the wall sometimes, meaning, okay, I'm going to give a catalog broadly out in the community that tells them everything about every course. That's good for your awareness and for people that know you, but not necessarily for people who don't know you and your work. So micro-targeting allows you in an ad campaign to base your targeting on certain parameters. How we do this nationally is through common interest and behaviors. We target cities with low educational attainment for like your high school diploma ads, limited English proficiency, and highest rates of unemployment or low quality for continuing CTE. Okay. Here's the campaign results to date. Here are the campaign results to date, and you can see this is running through the 13th. So we've had 152,000 adult learners click on the ad campaign to take a call to action. We've had almost 1 million impressions. So what's an impression? An impression is is when the ad ends up in people's feed. So just think about that, the reach that we're getting through this campaign, through this Google ad grant. Look at the click-through rate, 15.74%, well above the 3% benchmark. And what this chart tells me is that there is interest in adult education, where you just got to find the right people and build the profile of people in your area that really need it and want to do that. And you do that in two ways, and we're going to show you the two ways in this workshop. So here's other campaign data that we've gleaned on who's clicking on the ads. It gives us a summary of the demographic groups the ads are reaching by age and gender. And you can see that females have about a 13% click-through rate, males about 12%. And then it also tells us the most impressions and clicks, and they're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays between 10 and 4 p.m. So think about maybe scheduling your ads during this time frame, because we've got the national data that says, wow, this is really trending well, you know. Now you may say, okay, but has the ad hit my local area? This is just an example snapshot of data that we can pull for you if you're interested in running an ad campaign in your area. And it changes. Obviously, this is a snapshot in time. But for example, we can run it by county and look at the click-through rates. We can also run it by states for those of you who really want to run a statewide Move Ahead with Adult Ed campaign. We've run some statewide campaigns as well as local and regional. So look at this, Cass County, Texas. I don't know if we've got anybody on the call from Cass County, Texas, but you guys have over almost a 70% click-through rate. What does that tell us? Oh my gosh, people want you. They just don't know about you, right? So hopefully you've gotten some referrals, but you are primed for what we call retargeting, because we can take these folks who have clicked on your ad and retarget them with a local campaign to help them find you, to get them excited about your service offerings. So this is just a snapshot. Now, if you don't see your county up there, you can ask us for a link to see your county data or your state data. Just send us an email at info@fullcapacitymarketing.com, and we'll pull the data for you so you can see how the national campaign is trending in your area. So that's the first thing to do. Deb, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to jump in because there's a lot of talk on the in the chat about the $10 fee. We're looking into that. I think it's just a glitch, it's a typo. So I just wanted to let everybody know we're checking it, because Emma and I keep going back and forth. So we're looking into that, and hopefully by the end of the webinar, we'll have some update on that.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for jumping in, Deb.
Sure.
Yeah, it should not be any cost whatsoever. FCM is a partner in this. COABE is a partner in this, and these are tools that we developed for you to help move adult ed forward. So thanks for that, Deb. So again, if you're interested to see your county data, just send us an email, and we'll pull that for you so we can have a conversation about how you might use that data in your local area. Okay, so there's two ways you can use this campaign locally. That's what we are doing at the national level, okay, on behalf of COABE. How you localize it is, one, we've already talked about getting on the school locator map. So hopefully y'all are multitasking and doing that and getting your information corrected. But if you go to, and Emma will drop this link in the website, it's Move Ahead with Adult Ed / join the movement, with a lot of hyphens in between it. So what you want to do, if you scroll down there, you can see there's also a link to get on the locator map. The one I gave you was more direct. This is download the Move Ahead with Adult Ed toolkit. So this is what we want to do in terms of making sure you get the toolkit. And I'm going to go through those items here in just a moment. So James, time for the second poll. I want to see if you have downloaded the toolkit and have executed any strategies. If you've downloaded but have not executed any strategies, or if you have not downloaded the toolkit. And let's just give this a minute here. And Deb, while we're voting, do we have any burning questions in there we need to address?
Mostly it's about that $10 fee. So I think we're looking into that. We are looking at that so everybody knows, and otherwise I think we're good.
Okay, fantastic. All right, good. So we'll give it just a few more minutes here. And I noticed some text going off here. Anything I need to pay attention to, Deb?
Are we are we able to see, I don't think we are. I know if we do a direct campaign, are we able to see what area of adult education program is getting the most interest? ESL, high school completion? I think that's more for our individual ad campaigns.
That is, and COABE does have data on referrals out. So how many people are clicking on the the map and then going out to your website. That's the other thing, is that touch point, does it have your website, since we're using the locator map, something that is going to engage a student to pick up the phone and call you or email you. So that's why I'd go back and look at webinars 1 and 2, because you want to maybe revise messaging on your website. So just things to think about there. Deb, you had a point?
Yeah, no, there was one more. Just Rebecca made a note that they're using the Move Ahead with Adult Ed hashtag in their social media posts. And I thought that was great, and just something good for everybody to do, because that is a way to spread the word. And we've been doing it across the country for, as you said, like 3 years. So I think that's great. Keep doing it.
Fantastic. Yeah, if you are the 9% that have used the toolkit, if you could drop in the chat how you use the toolkit, and then we'll kind of get those ideas out for everyone at the end of the webinar as well. Okay, 75% have not downloaded. All right, so let me just go through and share with you a couple of things here on what is in the toolkit and how you can tailor it for your needs. First thing in there is a fact sheet, tailored fact sheet, and it can be branded with your school's logo. You can customize it with any photos, maybe to align with your career technical education programs. How you use this once you tailor it. And by the way, we have a free 35-minute webinar with our graphic creative director, Ivan Frenner, that walks you through very simply how to change out photos, how you add your logo. So I'm not going to spend time on that. We'll put that link in the chat for that webinar. But how can you use this? Well, you can post this particular asset to your website. You can use it for e-marketing, and you can use it for social media posts as well. So I'm going to show you some examples of how organizations have used this, and some of them have cut out the infographics, have used the hashtag in their social media posts. There's also a bank of posts for each school to tailor and share on social platforms. So many of you are doing social media. The news release template, that's for each school to tailor and share with the local media for earned media. Now, we went over this extensively in webinar 3 on how to use this, but you go back and review that webinar. But you want to announce your partnership with this campaign, and why Move Ahead with Adult Ed is important, and what you do in your local community. What innovations can you share? What student success stories can you share? So there's a template in there for you to use. Web copy. You can post a brief byline and copy to your website to show linkage to the campaign. So just think about how important this is. There's a Move Ahead with Adult Ed campaign logo, and it says proud partner. So think about on that locator map, if you're taking them to your home page, you want to have some kind of affiliation with the campaign so that the customer, in this case being the prospective student, sees your linkage to the campaign. You just aren't on the locator map, but you're a full participant in this campaign and can help them. So that visual goes a long way of you being a proud partner. There's an e-newsletter template for schools to keep in regular contact with adult learners and prospective learners by launching a Move Ahead with Adult Ed newsletter using this template. And again, Ivan takes you through how you would post this up on MailChimp or any of your e-marketing tools. Staying in regular contact with adult learners and prospective adult learners, very important through your newsletters. You can talk about your innovations and do all kinds of things with that newsletter. So again, 2 links here, download the toolkit and 35-minute tutorial video. Deb, do we have anybody in there that wants to talk about, why don't you share some of the innovations?
Yes, I was going to say, I was copying some of them. So Bonnie said they've used them on digital billboards and buses, as well as postcards. Lisa said they're using the images in social media, and especially for the National AEFL Week. And Eleanor shared that she's using the statistics on the fact sheet on the back of their adult ed print brochure. And the statistics, I think, are always good to share. People love numbers, and you can also use those in social media posts too. So I think that's really good.
Wow, yay, I want to give you guys a hand. That is so awesome. It really elevates you in the community and ties you into this bigger mission. Here's one from Robert Moore, and he says, as a result of the toolkit items, we've increased our media exposure as one of our local newspapers picked up the story and is going to run with it. Now, this was during the height of COVID that he put this out. He said, we've only seen a 15% decrease in enrollments as compared to 42% statewide decrease. We had a local company contact us to begin a new workforce education initiatives, and I encourage all of our programs to join me in the Move Ahead with Adult Ed campaign.
Yeah. So
Now,
can I
in your
jump in really
yes,
quick?
yes.
Yeah, just because we had a COVID question, Matt said a lot of the assets in the kit, because we created them around COVID, are COVID focused. Will we be updating any of these assets?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That was something Sharon and I have talked about, and so we will be updating them. But because you can go in and tailor them, you can change out the photos, you can change out the language, and hopefully you did your homework assignments on webinar 1 and 2, because you need to know the types of messages you're going to want to include in the toolkit. So make sure you all have done that. Here's some examples, and in Appendix A, I have given you a ton of examples. So when you download the toolkit, take a look at these. Here's some from Greenville Literacy Association. You can see how Ozark Literacy Council used the Move Ahead with Adult Ed and the infographics, and another one that just pulled out infographics. So take a look at all the examples we've given you in the appendix, and even copy some of that, or retweet it, and then get into the game here. Deb, you had a comment?
Yeah, I one more. Anthony had a question. Do we have any recommendations for small rural school districts that might lack some of the things as news media and buses and ways to get out there? What would we suggest?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like the toolkit is really geared into grassroots efforts, because you've got the flyers that you can blanket your local community, the e-newsletter where you can ask for referrals from your current students and get them to spread the word, the e-newsletter and those 2 items alone, and then just your social media posts, those 3, I'd highly recommend just adding them in the mix of what you're doing. Good question. Really good question. Okay, so
And
that's one way.
Celina, really quickly, we just have one more question from Christine. Will we get a recording of this webinar with our certificate by email?
Yes, you can get a recording of the email. COABE usually posts it up to their website 24 hours after the webinar. So check the COABE website under webinars archives, and you should see it there. Great question. Yeah, I would love for you to have your whole teams review all of webinars 1 through 4, all of them, because when you think about touch points, it's really important that you're on this call, but you've got so many people within your organization, or even if you're a small team and you only have 3 people, that you're interfacing with students. So the message that you give your students, the materials you're putting out, what's on your website, and all your touch points really need to be consistent and be an effective message. And again, that's what we covered in webinar 1. So have your whole teams, pop some popcorn, go back and review. Okay, so that's one way you can use the campaign. The other campaign, and by the way, the campaign has won 2 international, what we call Davy Awards, which has been fantastic because it's recognized as a very effective campaign. And Sharon and I put together additional options for localized outreach to increase enrollment. So we're going in now from the free webinar into paid advertising and how we work with local areas. In a paid local digital campaign, and again, this is an option to work with us to generate leads and boost enrollments. What you get for the campaign is a dedicated web page on the campaign website, hosted for 1 year and branded with your logo and contact forms and things of that nature. And Deb will give you an example here in just a moment. 6 to 8 weeks, generally, of professional digital ads to promote adult education to prospective students in the zip codes in your service area. And those zip codes allow us targeting on building the ideal profile of a student likely to engage with you. And then a student's leads report and social media to promote the campaign from your school or your district social media web pages. We've piloted this. This is just the pilot. I haven't counted in the work we've done from last year. So this was the end of 22. Look at the impressions. With these campaigns, almost 5 million impressions, number of times the ads appeared in feeds, the number of people who saw the ads, the number of people who engage with the ads, and then over 4,062 student leads. This was across 12 paid ad campaigns. So we're up to about 25 now. So on these 12, and about 850 leads captured. So I want to bring in Deb and really because you work a lot with these, Deb, and just talk a little bit about what we do in these campaigns, why we do it, and then I'll share some of the case studies as well.
Sure. I just want to answer one quick question before we do that. Jessica said she couldn't find the email from part 3 giving us the tools and recording, but you said it lives on the COABE website. So maybe that's the best place to get it.
Yes. And I'll send a follow-up email out with every link to it, if that would be helpful. I'll send it out to you guys with every link, so you just have it right there in your email.
Okay, great.
And I just put the link to the webinar archives in the chat too. So you should be able to access it there.
Okay, excellent. So yes, the move ahead with adult ed campaigns, they're amazing. They generate new leads and boost enrollments, but they're also increasing brand awareness and exposure to new audiences and expanding your reach. So there's a lot that goes on in them. What we do when we do an ad campaign, we work with you and your team to get enrollment data and demographics from past adult learning classes. Then we build a profile and a customized landing page, which is what Celina is sharing right now. So at the top, there's, for this example, for South Bay, we call out some of their offerings, and everything leads the CTA to the contest now. So we could capture their information, so then your team can follow up with them. And then on the next part of the landing page, you'll see in this example, the different buckets, the different classes that they're promoting at that point, that we tailor to you. So it doesn't have to be these classes. If you're doing GED or learning English, that's great. But if you have other classes, recently we've been working with Hassan de la Puente Adult Ed, and we had automotive classes and be a manicure, there's all sorts of things. So this page is really tailored to what your school is offering. And then, as you can see here, it's all about getting their contact information. So then we could get that contact information, your team could follow up, and you could start getting new enrollments. So it's an easy process once we get started, and very, very effective.
Thanks, Deb. And the other thing we do, because the follow-up is important, is who is following up at your school? What are they saying? So we actually do some training on the best practices in following up, because it does take 5 to 12 touch points to get a student to enroll. And what we have found is sometimes it's a higher end on adult education, just because they may need a little bit hand-holding. So you may be doing this with students, but we take a look at how you're moving them through the enrollment funnel and what is being said and the medium. Are you using texting? Are you just calling? Is it one email? So think about this. Let's say they see our ad maybe 3 or 4 times, they're going to pick up the phone and call you. That's 5 touch points, right? But then what happens after that? How do you nurture them to get them into your orientation, to get them to enrollment? So it's a very effective way of doing that. The other reason I like these is because we're looking specifically at where your low enrollment is. So rather than spending a huge investment on a bus ad or a billboard to get to just say your name, which is really brand awareness, the digital focus allows us to get down to neighborhood, zip code levels and find those students likely to enroll in your program, right? To build those enrollments further. So your investment is much wiser than just, I'm not saying that those other mediums aren't effective in some markets, but when you really want to get down to it and find the students are going to enroll, this is a great way of sort of carving that out, if you will.
Celina, can I jump in really quick?
Yeah.
Just we had a question that sort of ties into that. David was talking about some adults have lack numeracy skills, and how do you market those? How do you market those? And so, for instance, if we were going to do a Move Ahead with Adult Ed ad campaign, one of those buckets on the website, that's what it was showing you, can specifically be about that. And then in the ads, one of these here, where it says Move Ahead with Adult Ed, we could specifically do that. And then we would target that specifically in the ad. If you're not doing a campaign, I would add that to your social media. I would add that to your newsletter. I would call it out in all the ways you are already reaching your audience so they know it's there.
Great question. And also add success stories, webinar 2, of people who have the same plight, same challenge, but that you've helped them in some way, because that story is going to speak emotionally to someone else like that student who's likely to enroll. The other thing I should mention is that we can do multilingual ads as well. And so let's say if we're doing a Vietnamese campaign, we would drive them to the Vietnamese version of this website, right? So there's ways that we kind of work around that as well, to really target. It's fine-tuning. It's a very sort of fine-tuned approach to getting you enrollments. Okay, so let's roll through these case studies in the next few minutes, and all very different. So I wanted to give you, one is a single school, one is a consortium that has 7 schools, a mix of community colleges as well as adult education schools, and then a single community college. And you'll see that, while the approach is similar, the ads, everything else is very different because they have different issues they're trying to resolve. So let's take a look at Oakland Adult and Career Education. So in this particular adult ed school, it's a single school recruitment, and they wanted to address African American and Latino student recruitment. And here are the areas that they had low enrollments in. ESL, high school equivalency, GED, and CTE program promotion, focusing on this financial literacy they call BankWorks, a Google IT Academy, and construction and union trades. So this is after we did a deep dive on their data and had a consultation with them. This is like, we really need help in these areas. So here's an example of an ad. We did their landing page, which was branded with, adult ed and career education. This is an example of an ad that was run. Their challenges were large declines in HSE and career ed due to the pandemic. African Americans were underrepresented compared to their overall population. So we looked at their overall data in their area, and they were really underperforming with African Americans. They really didn't have proactive outreach to boost enrollments. It was just kind of hit or miss. They mailed out a catalog and a direct mail, but that didn't really allow for a targeted strategy for these specific populations. So here's that word again. We did micro-targeting for African American males for CTE and HSE, a secondary focus on ESL and the Latinx community, ads that reflected the diversity of the community. So when people see an ad, they want to see themselves in that ad. That's really hard to do when you have like this whole catalog, all of this stuff. It's like, okay, I get what they do, but what's in it for me? And that's the question you have to answer when you're doing an ad campaign to expand your reach. And then promoting the CTE classes, they had low enrollment classes with job placement. They had job placement going on at their school. Really wonderful programs. So here's some of the ads that were run. You can see Move Ahead with Adult Ed is the main theme. They're tying into that national campaign. They tied in, I think their click-through rate in their area was something above 50%. So we were able to retarget the people who had looked at the ads, and now we're even tailoring the message even further. Some of the results, this is about 336 impressions, number of the time the ad was displayed. We had, look at that, 94,976 people reach the total number of people who see your content. Clicks on ads, these are the people who are really interested. They're engaging with it. And then we had ended up with 472 leads in a 6-week campaign. So think about that. You know, you're like, okay, I'm going to mail this catalog out, but these classes are really low in enrollment. We saw that 62% were male and 38% female, which was our target, right? If you recall, and 100% of the leads came from lowest income and lowest educational attainment tracks, because you're able to target that in a digital campaign. So very cost effective, very, targeted. Contra Costa County Adult Education Consortium, 7 schools coming together as a consortium. They wanted to do a countywide campaign and split leads based on what they offered at each of their schools and by zip codes and things like that. So sometimes we work with a regional campaign who pulls their money and says, okay, we were going to do this regionally. Deb's working right now with South Bay Adult School, Southwestern. It's a consortium. The landing page that we just showed you, they've come back for 5. This is their 5th round of doing ad campaigns with us. They pretty much eliminated their catalogs. They just said, no, we're just going to focus on this because our enrollments are there. So here are all the areas that they focus, so that we built the landing page specifically for these buckets, if you will. Their particular problems, their healthcare programs had low enrollment but very high need in that area. The consortia didn't have a uniform, effective post-pandemic recruitment campaign. They just didn't have one. Larger adult ed schools were getting most of the enrollments. All the schools comprised of their consortia had different CTE programs. So the campaign required multiple geo-targets, that micro-targeting again in specific areas for this specific program. Younger audiences were also underrepresented when we looked at the data. So the solution, we primarily focused on their key areas. The ads reflected the diversity of the community, and we looked at promoting low enrollment classes. We did traffic and leads campaigns with remarketing and leads collection in-app and on page. That is a total technical sentence there, but what it means is the first thing we did is try to raise awareness. We didn't ask them for their contact information. That's kind of a traffic campaign to get them to that landing page. Then once we leave in breadcrumbs, remember those 5 to 12 touch points, we would ask them for the information. And then those who were interested, we'd remarket them and collect the leads both on the application itself. Let's say we were doing some Facebook ads, or on their webpage in that contact form. This particular one, we use Instagram ads with remarketing as well. So here's some of the ads that we ran for them that were high performing. So their results here, I'll put all of these up. They got 589 leads in to 6 to 8 week time frame. 60% female, 40%, oh, that should say 40% male. That's a typo there. Men aged 18 to 24 was targeted, and men aged 35 to 44 were targeted. This was the target for women, and that's the lead breakdown for each of the mediums that we used. And then Glendale, let's run through this. This is an interesting case study. They had a very high Armenian, Spanish, and English student recruitment. This is a single school campaign, but very high Armenian population. These were the areas they were focused on in low enrollments. So this was a multi-language campaign. and very important on the digital to target areas that where these folks, these diverse students lived. Some of their challenge, they saw large declines in ESL and career technical education. They were unable to re-engage former students to return. So I'm not sure if you all had that challenge, but there's a way you can also target the ad campaign out and get those folks back in to your classes. College was not focused on adult ed recruitment, and CTE classes were unfilled. So again, that word again, micro-targeting, non-returning and new students via custom audience. So we actually built an audience that aligned with those goals and went into the communities with the highest rates of foreign-born, non-English speaking residents. And the campaign ads were in English, but also Armenian and Spanish. Here's some of the ads that we had for Glendale Community College. And the results, 272 leads for their campaign and a breakdown of the leads per program that we were trying to target. And the demographics behind it. So I'm going to pause there. And Deb, do we have questions on this?
There's a couple questions that would be good to mention now. Someone asked, are there any scripts that are useful in getting students to enroll in the follow-up stage? So I want to start with that one.
Yes, yes, and yes. Actually, Deb and I take the lead on running the professional development. And a lot of this goes into looking at, okay, what are you currently doing and how the ad campaign is going to boost it up? But what is it you need to be saying, messaging out? That's all part of it. And it's really critical. So yes, the scripts are going to vary from market to market because as you saw in the last case study, you know, an Armenian student may have a different need than Spanish speaking. So once they come into that funnel, what are you saying to each of those market segments to bring them along further to enrollment? Great question. Really good question.
There is another question from Tammy talking about the COABE, the Google Ad Campaign grant, wondering if this is something that statewide adult ed programs can get access to for statewide PR ads.
Absolutely. So in fact, in your follow-up email, I'll put a link as to the process behind it. You need it, but it's not just getting the grant, it's maintaining it. And the reason COABE's been able to maintain it for 33 months in a row is because they've had those high click-through rates. So it goes back to webinars 1 and 2 on what is the right message for your market. And, you know, then you can certainly use the Move Ahead with Adult Ed theme and moving that into your community.
Okay.
I'd also start with asking us for the data in your area on that national campaign to see what click-through rates are.
Okay. There was another question. I think this was relating to one of the campaigns when you talked about first we did an awareness traffic campaign.
Yes.
Campaign. And it was like the information isn't collected at the first touch point, but collected in a few clicks later. What is the reasoning? And what we do is the awareness and traffic campaign just gets it out there. So it reaches the widest audience we can, spreads the word. So when we follow up with a leads campaign, people might be like, oh, I saw that before. Oh, wait, you know, there was something, I think I went to that landing page, so it's not so new. So that's why we try to do that. And then when we're in the leads generation phase of the campaign, our goal is to get the leads. It's not as much about the awareness and impressions. We want to get the leads. So the algorithms at this point have an idea of the people we're targeting with, and they're getting the most likely, they're showing the ads to the people most likely to then go to the either landing page, direct them there to fill out the contact form, or as Celina said, sometimes we do it right in app in the platform, whether that's Facebook or Instagram. So there's that one. And then go ahead.
No, great question. I mean, it's really, really good questions. I love these.
Yeah, there was one more from David. If we've had experience, this is very specific, micro-targeting low literate residents in affordable housing or low income patients in federally qualified community health centers. Often these adults do have a need for adult foundational educational services, but don't know that if they're available. We are limited by what the platforms let us target. That seems very, very micro. So we'd have to take a look, and each platform does change all the time. But I think there is a way, especially based on the community, of thinking about how to reach those people.
Yes.
Celina, maybe if you want to add to that.
That's really, I love that. And that gets really more into integrated marketing, which leads me into what we're going to talk about next and some resources for you all. There is not one magic bullet that is going to put all of get your brand out there and, you know, make you top of mind and everything. It's a combination of things, and it's called a PESO model. Paid ads, which is what we just talked about. Earned, which we talked about in webinar 3. Shared, which is your social campaigns. And owned. Owned media is things like your website, your blogs, your database, your list. You really have to have a balance across all of those. So for the last question, one of the things you may want to consider is doing some shared and owned, where you're writing some blogs and doing some social posts and connecting in with those community groups for cross-promotional activities. So an ad campaign, maybe your market is so specific and the platform cannot target down to that level, but get you close to underserved and underrepresented populations that might be willing to do that. So you may want to think about expanding your strategies, right? So great questions.
Can I do
So
one more, Celina, really quick?
Yeah,
Really quick, because
please.
I don't know the answer to this, and you might. Sonia
Okay.
said she's looking through the toolkit for the Proud Partner logo to add to the website,
Yes.
and she can't find it. So do we know where
Okay.
that is, or do we need to get back to her?
Yes, let's make a note, and I will, before I send out the email, make sure that the toolkit is completely refreshed with everything, and then we'll make sure you get it. Okay. So if you guys have enjoyed this, I would really encourage you. We're going to go deeper in this material when we get on site at the COABE conference. I found out we're doing a 3-hour workshop on March 17th on building an effective brand, storytelling, campaigns, and targeted outreach. We're going to go a little bit deeper into the materials that we've done in these 4 webinars, into building persona and building those segmented messaging, and how you sort of work through that whole process. So you'll have a really good roadmap at the end of the 3 hours with us. I found out from COABE that you can take this webinar virtually. It's a hybrid session, so I'll be on site. Emma and Anika will be online, and we're going to coordinate our teaching there. It's $75, but you can take it virtually, as I said. So I'd highly recommend, if you've enjoyed this, to think about connecting with us in Nashville. The other thing is, if you're in Nashville and you're interested in a paid ad campaign and want to have a little bit more information, you can book a face-to-face with me at the conference if you're going to be there. So you just contact us at info@. We'll set up a time in between our sessions. So we're doing the pre-con session. We're also doing a hybrid workshop on building an effective adult education brand. And Kathy Olson-Tracy is going to be joining me for that, where we worked across her state doing an Illinois campaign. It wasn't Move Ahead with Adult Ed, but the same concept. It was Your Path, Your Future. And how we worked on that campaign, and her particular enrollments increased statewide 40.5% across the state. So that's a really good one to attend. And then the Behind Every Employer, a statewide approach. Kathy's now taking the learning she did from her statewide adult ed campaign and flipping that over to Behind Every Employer, a statewide approach. So that will be virtual only. Those are the other another option you have for connecting with us while we're in Nashville. Lastly, I don't know if you all have seen this, but we were very excited to announce COABE's affiliate partnership with us. And this is our full course that we have developed. It's called the Brand Amplifier for Workforce and Education Professionals. And Sharon wrote a quote here that the course is a game changer for our members that want to learn clear, actionable steps to enhance how their brands are positioned within their unique markets. So this is a course. It's 10 modules online, self-paced. But with each module, which builds on one another, we take you even deeper into each of these areas and address some of the key issues that we face in workforce and education, like limited staff, limited budgets, getting the word out, those types of things. So highly recommend you check that out. Being a member of COABE, you get a discounted rate for that particular course. So highly recommend that you do that. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left for any other further questions or comments. How are we doing in the chat?
We are good. I just put in the chat, but want to say it out loud one more time. We're working with COABE to fix that $10 issue. It's not going to happen during this, but when Celina sends out, ideally when we send out the email with the updated links, it will be fixed by then, but you just need to give us a little time on that.
Okay, great. So what our homework assignment, we'll assign ourselves homework assignments. We got to figure out with COABE the $10 thing. We're going to put in there where you can download specific links for each of the recordings and the materials. There was a third one, Deb, help me out.
All right. We're also, yeah, because someone had asked a question about the logo, the Proud Partner logo.
The logo. We'll make sure that the kit is up to date with all the materials.
So let me just see. We're looking at your sample campaign case studies. What is the percentage of leads coming from those? That varies from campaign to campaign. I don't know.
I didn't say that question again, Deb.
So looking at your sample campaign case studies, what is the percentage of leads coming from those? And I think you went through with each case study how many leads we got. So I'm not.
So the number of leads that I flashed, the number of leads that I flashed on the screen, 100% came from the campaign, because they're having to give us their contact information on the ad itself. There's a contact form, or they filled out their contact information on the landing page. So that's 100%.
Yeah, definitely that. And then there was one more question. If we have recommendations on how to manage a Google grant, haven't applied to one because it could be very overwhelming. We're a small staff.
Yeah, it is overwhelming. Sharon got that one, and then she was having challenges with it because she could not keep the rate at 3%. And I will say, managing a digital ad campaign, I wish I could give you here's the magic bullet, but we're one of few marketing firms that have an in-house digital team. And why is that important? Because you have to, when you do a digital campaign, optimize ads and make sure that the message is right. You're constantly changing visuals, messaging. It's not just you put an ad up there and you're done. It's a lot of A/B testing around it. Now, we do have a module in this course on the screen. It's a bonus module on digital ads if you're interested in diving into that more. We could also be your partner in that. If you have some investment and you want to do an ad campaign, then just contact me and we can talk about that further. Okay. Please make sure you download the deck, because we've put all of the links in there, throughout this whole journey. Please take the webinar poll, and then I'll let you guys do that. And James, do you have anything else you want to add here?
I just want to say thank you very much. That was a wonderful presentation. It's been a great series. This is the second one that I've had an opportunity to sit in and listen on, and I will definitely be at the pre-conference in Nashville for that one. I hope everybody took notes. There is a lot of good information in this webinar and in the entire series. And just as another reminder, this will be posted on coabe.org in the link that Emma posted earlier. So you all get an email reminder for that. If you could just take a minute and fill out the last poll question before you log off. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Celina. Thank you, Deborah. And thank you, Emma, for a wonderful presentation. We'll see everybody in Nashville. Thank you so much.
Just hanging out to see if there are any other questions. Okay, signing off now. Thanks, everybody.